It was a cold winter day. Children played and lollygagged and paraded in the street. Elderly folk told stories of woe and regret in a tone of sheer acceptance. The more jovial of serfs sang in the way of the farmer. Animals danced and sang in languages we humans could never understand. The sun was rising, yet always setting at the same time. But then all this stopped at a moment's notice, suddenly and instantly. The music, the splendor, the glory. As a young boy came from the village, a young boy with the face of a young boy, and he uttered the immortal words, "Puffed! This is too mainstream." And in years to come, so many years, another boy would be born. He would grow up in a world where this phrase appeared ever too often, and then would often wonder to himself, what the hell are you talking about? By the way, it's me. So, let's dictionary it up a bit. What does mainstream mean? The ideas, attitudes, or activities that are regarded as normal or conventional. And having too much of something means that there is so much of this thing that it is bad for you, or the neighborhood or two that surrounds you and is full of people and creatures that may be damaged by your sacrifice of having too much, as opposed to not much at all. And this can apply in many cases. Perhaps your tea is too hot. Perhaps your plastic dinosaur does not produce the right amount of jelly beans. And the right amount being too many. But these rules do not apply to everything, not at all, my steaming wall puppies. You okay, Magical? Did I hit Magical? I'd feel worse about it, but he does want to overthrow the world, and I don't want that at all. For reference, I am talking about that giraffe with the cold black eyes. Back to the point of the video, if you apply the term to mainstream, then I'd have to debate it with you. So there's this constant drive to be different from all the people around you, which is fine in itself, but at times, it can be a bit damaging if you put it ahead of your happiness. Some people that do this become so wrapped up in the idea of being different that they'll make sure to maintain this image and then not try anything on the mainstream because they just instantly believe that it's wrong and it will destroy their image at the cost of things that they may enjoy that go in the mainstream. Therefore, they will refuse to watch or give something a try because they may have seen, heard, or read about it being in the mainstream. And if it's a popular item that people like, then that will deter from their image, or at least the one they're trying to hold up. Not all people, but some people do this, okay? Being different is fine, but at a point become so different you just become like everyone else, trying to be different like you, in the same fashion at you, judging things by whether or not other people like or dislike them. Why am I still wearing these? They remind me of Rory. I miss Rory. So how did I, a humble servant, learn that something's popularity does not define its worth? I learned it from this guy. I used to be him, and it was an interesting ride from what I can remember. So imagine the year is 2011 again, which is hard enough for me because I very barely remember the year at all. But from what I do remember is that I had a little hobby of sorts. I, being him, was on a constant drive to rid of the world of all pop music, all evil pop music, and return it to the world that was beautiful 60s to 80s music. I made sure to point out to everyone that I had ever met that pop music was evil and was destroying our music standards, as well as rap and dubstep, and anything in general that was not classic rock. And the thing was, I felt so liberated for doing this, and I felt so rebellious against society's standards. I felt different from all the other losers who listened to modern music. I would eventually go on to get over the stage, which is now a great relief. But even with me leaving it, it still exists. As in any comment section of a music video from the 50s, 60s, 70s, or 80s will surely feature someone determined to prove to the world that they are not middle-aged and that they like this music slash genre slash music video. And that's fine. Do whatever you want. And then some people take a little step further. Some more determined listeners will be very clear in their point that they are not middle-aged, they like this music, and that all other music is bad, and you are bad if you dare lay your ears upon it. They, and by they I mean me at the time, as well as they, will slam all other types of music that are not the ones they listen to, that lots of artists have put lots of effort into to express themselves and develop a fan base that supports them based on the assumption that they hadn't. There are other reasons, which is stuff like money and advertising and attention, that I felt fine to blame upon all musicians within the last 11 years, remembering that this is 2011. I would just ignore these complex human beings' emotions and feelings, and their music, which I wouldn't even give a try, based on the other things that are within that content. And sure, you can dislike it all, that's completely fine. I think there should be a certain amount of respect for other people's opinions and the subjectivity of opinions. I use a different YouTube account for a reason. Some comments I made, I would like to just gather up and burn into a fiery pit of Bernie stuff. Many of these would have featured our old friend, Too Mainstream. Too Mainstream implies that other people are stupid or extreme because their tastes happen to collide with popular things. Value of the person or media is based on what is within it, not what the reactions to it are. You don't have to be pressured into liking or disliking things based on whether or not other people like or dislike them. There's no shame in that. Like what you want to like, okay? Reminder, as long as it's not hurtful. Don't like things like racism and fascism and so forth. That's not good. And thus, I will deliver this message dramatically and poetically. Farewell, former version of me that I've destroyed for dramatic tension, but may be interpreted in a beautiful and caring way that shows my inner beauty as a human being among other men and women, and also my deep, deep thoughts. And just a side note, I went this whole video without using the word hipster once, so I think I deserve something for that. Snap, snap, babes. Too mainstream implies that other people do not understand their lines that they're meant to say. Oh, awful.